And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby. We are back. We are officially back after what has been pretty much a month, basically, of no videos, no content, stuff like that. We are officially back. And first of all, I just want to apologize for the last month. It's been a long month. It's been a long year already, I must admit, even though it's only April in a couple of days. But yeah, I think we just got to a stage where behind the scenes we needed to review a lot of things. We need to decide what the future is for the channel. We need to look at sustainability. And we had to sort of do quite a big review as we also sort of battled with everyday jobs and all these sort of things and stuff like that. So we had to have a bit of time off to try and get all our sort of ducks in a row. And we've got a couple of very exciting projects, which we are still sort of very much in the early stages of, but hopefully something that's going to be quite exciting moving forward. So the big news is that we are back in terms of rugby. We'll be back this weekend with watch-alongs and the likes. We'll be back with cricket previews and reviews, for example. So the African Test match starts tomorrow, so we'll be covering that. And then, yeah, basically the future of the channel is hopefully going to be a little bit more multi-sport. You know, obviously, whilst we've been very much a rugby channel, we do want to look at branching out into different areas. And the reality is, you know, for this channel to be sustainable, we need to find the best sort of formula. And, you know, as a result of that, you know, we do need to start looking at other avenues, stuff like that, and seeing what works best for the channel. Because at the end of the day, we can only continue doing this for as long as it is sustainable to do so. But in terms of the news, there's so much to go through tonight. We're going to be talking about the URC. We're going to be talking about the last couple of weeks of results. We're going to be talking about Damien Delendi. We're going to be talking about Chris Clutie. We're going to be talking about Upland Fashion, Spirit Corsi injuries. We're going to be talking about ticket prices. We're going to be talking about fans and stadiums. And that's something I really want to sort of debate and really want to sort of get to sort of the bottom of. And I think there's quite a lot to sort of go through because we haven't done this in quite a long time. So yeah, as usual, any questions, anything you want to talk about, chuck them in the comments, and then we can sort of get to that. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know who's back or the regulars back, stuff like that. Please do smash like on video. And yeah, let's sort of get back into things. So at the moment, we've got a poll going on in the comments, and there's already been 8 votes. And the question is, should the Sharks sack Sean Everett? Bit of alliteration there. And that's sort of the title of the video. We were talking very much about the Sharks because whilst if we look at the URC log, for example, they might not be doing as badly as they possibly could. Lots wrong in that union. Lots of very disgruntled Sharks fans. And we're going to try and sort of get to sort of the idea of why are the Sharks not kicking on? Why are a side that is so stacked not playing like one of the best sides in the competition? Because you look at their squad, and they should be one of the best squads in the competition. What I will say though is that last weekend they did lose to a pretty decent Edinburgh side. Edinburgh have been playing pretty good rugby across the URC, so let's also not do them a disservice because they're a decent side. However, when you're looking at the Lions, you know, beating a Munster, for example, how the Bulls pummeled Ulster. You know, we're looking at not Bulls, Stormers beating Ulster. You were looking at a Shark side which is not firing on all cylinders. So if we look at the results of last weekend, Stormers beating the Ulster 23 points to 20. Although having said that, they have come out already and said that in terms of the refereeing, that Ulster tried towards the end should have stood. Which is going to be very interesting in terms of how that influences officials going forward, in terms of what that does for the competition, in terms of how we review referee and stuff like that. Other results for the South African sides: the Bulls thrashing the Dragons 55 points to 20. Edinburgh beating Sharks 21 points to 5. And the Lions. Where's the results? I don't want to tell you the wrong score here. Smashing Ospreys 45 points to 15. Pretty incredible result that, by the way. Didn't see that one coming at all. But if we look at the log and stuff like that, and what sort of the ramifications are, because the Sharks are the 3rd ranked South African side at the moment, and I'm going to be very honest, I still think that they have the best squad on paper. I still think that whilst the Bulls and the Stormers are playing the best rugby, Stormers, the top of the log for South African sides, I still think that on paper that Sharks squad should be the best South African side. So today we're going to sort of try and dissect why they are not the best side. So a couple of comments. Earlier we had Xavier Murray says, clueless coach. GP's Creeper says, a debate I'm interested in hearing on the channel is who's the next Springbok 10. Jordan has been really impressive recently. Yeah, we can talk about that as well. Brent Swart says, Kerwin is so flat in attack and his kicking game is not great. And do you think Evan Rush showed his skills this weekend? So let's start with the Sharks issue. And a lot of people are attributing the Sharks' struggles to Curwin Bosch. And if we're going to be brutally honest, in very wet conditions, which in many ways, you think of attack, you think of the Sharks as and they've been the side in the past couple of years who have kicked the ball the most across the South African sides. He is usually got a very reliable kicking game. He's got a very big boot in wet conditions. You think that it was set up for him to really go and succeed. But if we're being brutally honest, I thought Curwin Bosch had an absolute shocker on the weekend. And I think it raised a lot of questions in terms of who is the long-term fly half for the Sharks. Who are they backing? I think Buddha Chamberlain's had some very nice games. I still have my reservations about his consistency and whether he can continue to produce it week in, week out. He is still a young player, though, so that is a very usual struggle to have at that sort of age. I think Benita's a very nice player. I know the Sharks fans haven't been particularly impressed with him yet, but I think that he showed glimmers at occasions of that he. I mean, we know he's a good fly half. He's an international fly half. Hasn't quite sort of settled in yet, but it'll take time. Sometimes it takes time for these players to sort of really start to get it. But I think you look at the Sharks, and I think that especially with Kanya, there's no spark. There's no one in that backline, for me, who can really sort of create something. There's no X factor for me. I think when Apollo Fassi's got X factor from a counter-attacking personal point of view. He's got raw pace. He's got a very good step, for example. I know he's not currently playing, but he's got that X factor. Whereas for me, the Sharks are missing that playmaker. They don't have a playmaker at the moment. And Curwin Bosch is many things, but I've never rated him as a playmaker. And I think that we are seeing the value in playmakers in the Stormers. In the fact that all of a sudden you've got Marty Liebach, Damien Willems, Warwick Galant all on the same side, and they're creating so much. They're playing such an attacking brand of rugby. Champagne rugby, as some people are calling it. And I don't think it's a mistake that the team with the most playmakers in their backline are playing the nicest rugby. I don't think that is a mistake. I think even if you look at the Bulls, I think that I think that they've also got a couple of playmakers. Someone like Lionel Pooh, for example, is a playmaker. Kurt Lawrence is a very nice attacking fullback. I think that's one thing. I think that the Sharks are missing creativity in that far halves and two centers. When you have Lekanya an outside center, he can create stuff, and he was creating stuff. That's what he does. But there's nothing at fly half at the moment. There's not much at inside center either. So I think that's the biggest thing. If they can bring in an exciting sort of playmaker type player into that back line, you've got so much talent to release. You've got to try and release Mapimpi. You've got to release Fassi. You've got to be releasing Springbok. You've got to be releasing even something like a Ben Tapawai, for example. He's a good player. You've got to get him into good space, stuff like that. Put him some good gaps. But so I think that the Sharks are. I think they'll be okay, but it is quite interesting to see how many people are calling for a change of coaching staff, because I think that they've just lacked that consistency so far this season. They've had some good results, and they're not sitting terribly in the log, but we expected them to be our flagship side. You look at the side with Asia Khaleesi, Bongi Manambi, Thomas Toy, all Springbok front row. Not only going to be Eben Etzebeth in the second row. You've got Sia Khaleesi, Sika Mozinoche, Pepsi Buthelezi, Jaden Hendricks, Grant Williams. You've got two Springbok scrum halves, in that position. Curwin Bosch, Springbok capped. They had Lekanya, Makazul Mapimpi, Apele Fassi, Spur and Corsi, Ben Tapawai. I mean, they can name an entirely capped backline, internationally capped backline with capped players on the bench as well. That is the sort of depth they've had to them, and yet they're just not quite putting it all together. So if we look at the log at the moment, the Stormers are currently flying the South African flag the highest. They are sitting at 6th place on 38 points. Bulls are right after them with 37 points, and Sharks with 36 points. The Sharks have won. They've all won 7 games. The Stormers have drawn 2. But the Sharks haven't picked up as many bonus points as the Bulls have. So table-wise, it's not a crisis. The Sharks aren't in a positional crisis. They still can catch, Glasgow Warriors and the likes and get to that top 4. There's no doubt they can. And the results haven't necessarily been terrible. I mean, they thrashed Zebra, but I mean, you sort of expect. Well, they beat Benetton, which you kind of sort of hope to see. But I think we all agree that they haven't quite sort of clicked yet. And it's interesting because the only thing you can do, and this is where it gets very interesting, is once you bring all these players in and you've committed to saying we've got all the best players, if it's still not working, you then have to go to the coach. And that's why our poll, which is getting a little momentum, I've got 77 people saying that Sean Everett needs to get the sack. And now, if he does, what thing gets interesting is who replaces him, and who can take them to that next level. Some of the comments saying, also, is it fair that Madosh should be selected over Mpimpy in the future based on current form, or selecting Fassi at 11 consistently, because I really don't think the best is the best 11 at the moment. Sharks have so much talent, but so disappointing. Thank goodness I'm a blow bull. Sahin, Sabrina Swart says Sharks try to get somebody like Malcolm Yar who could complement the backline. What happened to Forever Rugby? I'll talk about that towards the end of the show. I'll give you guys a bit of an update on what's happening from our side. Why are the guys making such a big thing of this? The Sharks only had one poor home game. Now they are the worst. I don't think anyone's saying they're the worst, but we expected them to be the best. And they're not. And results-wise, they might not have had the worst results recently. But if we're being brutally honest, we haven't seen the Sharks like we saw at Super Rugby 2 years ago. That's the long and short of it, really. I think that's more what the concern is, the fact that they haven't quite sort of managed to regain that sort of form. They were the form side in Super Rugby, and now they're currently very much a mid-table URC side. I mean, in the most literal sense, because they are currently sitting 8th of 16. But time out of tennis is so far the most consistent fly-up has been Chris Smith. The Ultimate Sharpshooter says, if you watch football, you'll know that even a stacked squad can be brought to needs with poor management, 100%. How's Johan? Hope you're well. Saying Sharks must sack Sean Edwards. The thing with the Sharks is that they have quality players, they don't have the quality coach. Sharks tactic doesn't work effectively. And no, you may not have. If Johan Ackerman goes to the Sharks, he's exactly probably what they need, but I would cry if that happens. So can we not do that? Because as life as a Lions fan, albeit we've had a bit of a relief from the last few weeks, it's tough out here. It's tough out here. So yeah, we'll end the poll there, and that's the thing. 77% of people are saying that the coaching needs to change because they got the players, but they're not getting the best out of the players. And it's hard to argue with that because, as I said, results-wise, they've won 7 out of 13 games, the same amount as the Bulls and the Stormers. The Bulls, I think we expected the Bulls and the Sharks to be quite close. We probably don't. We didn't expect the Stormers to play as well as they did, but they are, which is great. And the Lions, after a horrific start, have won 3 games in a month, which is really cool. So our South African sides are showing how much of their early struggles was, first of all, adapting to different tactics, but also conditions. We've now seeing teams come down to South Africa. I know we didn't see a full-string Munster side, but the Lions had no right to beat Munster, and they did. That Osprey side that the Lions are playing, to go and put them to the sword like they did is a pretty remarkable feat. I mean, to win by 30 points, you're talking about a Lions side where they don't have a single current international squad member. None. Zero. And they thumped Ospreys like they were a local pub side, which is cool to see. The Bulls are the Bulls. And what I think the nice thing about the Bulls at the moment is that they are playing nice rugby. And they are doing what other teams are struggling to do in terms of being able to be very strong in the Currie Cup and be very strong in the URC. And everyone was having a moan about them because of the Currie Cup, but I don't have any issue with what they're doing in the Currie Cup. Play your stronger side in the Currie Cup. By all means, you must play, if you want to win the Currie Cup, and they do, play their best side. they're still getting the results in the URC. So I think they're getting that balance right. The Stormers have been quite impressive recently. I think they're playing such nice rugby. Warwick Lunt for me is every week walking his way further and further into that Springbok starting lineup. I don't see how we don't pick him, to be honest. And we are also, again, we're seeing, Dave Williams playing a bit more at 12 is good to see, because I think that's where I'd like him to settle. I think that's where it makes the most sense. Also good to see that people came back from injuries, Frans Maherbe coming back. So the Stormers are only going to get stronger. However, they are set to lose a couple of players. But we're going to talk about a couple of transfers, because there's quite a lot of players on the bench, or on the move at the moment in around Europe. Where are we? After Charles say without Swayze isn't as effective. Well, Swayze is around, doing good things at Varsity Cup. Louis going with the Cheetahs coach, Harvey's Free. Tom Tennis says, I want to see the Sharks salary cap. Well, in theory, it's the same as every union, because that's the point of a salary cap itself. But I think that they probably negotiate a lot of side deals in order to try and sort of up it. There's no ways that they are managed to bring the players that they are bringing in, and there isn't extra over and above stuff that they're doing behind the scenes to be able to afford the players. Sia Khaleesi is probably within the top 5 most marketable rugby players right now at the Sharks. Even Etzebeth, you're talking about one of the best players in the world right now, going to the Sharks there as well. Lekanya as well. Those are 3 players you probably put in the top 10 best players in the world right now, all at the Sharks. And, you have to have these big contracts. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see what the behind-the-scenes stuff that they are doing to be able to have all these players at the Union. What has happened to the Lions recently? I'll tell you what happened. We stopped picking Andre Warner, and we stopped picking Ariel Fayun. And which sounds it's me being very harsh, but for the first time, Morne van den Berg's had a run of games. Jordan Hendricks is coming back and looking fully fit, and Kieran Horn's playing at full back, and obviously want to see the Somali's back as well. And the pace and the type of rugby the Lions are playing is chalk and cheese compared to things. The tempo that the Lions are suddenly playing with. And I'm telling you right now, it comes down to your scrum off. Morne van den Berg is a live wire, very in the mold of Faf de Klerk. And that's the whole thing about the Lions. They're supposed to be a fit side. They're a very mobile side, and they like to play quickly, and we're starting to see that. And we're seeing some fantastic rugby from them. To watch that Ospreys result on Friday was mind-blowing, considering where we were 2 months ago, a month ago even, on the back of losing, 3 SA derbies in the trot. So, again, the problem with the Lions is that you look at that side and you think, the side's pretty decent, maybe they've got some potential, but Burger Odendahl's going. Vince Tutuka there's rumours that he's going to go. There's rumours that Cardi Sadi could be going to the Bulls. There's rumours that Monsi Similani could be on the move. So that again is the problem. All of a sudden we've got this decent, I wouldn't say mind-blowing side, but we've got a decent side that you think we can grow, add a couple of players, but then it's about to be ripped apart again, and that becomes the Lions' story. And then it's just again and again and again and again. So we'll see what happens in the off season, but they need to sign a lot of players. Do you rate Curran Bosch? I've never been a massive Curran Bosch fan, mostly to do to the defense, which sounds like an old argument, but I think it's still true. I think that he's got a very big boot, and I think tactically he's not bad. I don't think he's good enough yet to really spark a backline into too much, and I still think his defense is a bit dodgy. So I think that someone like Jordan Hendricks, for me, looks a much better prospect, because defensively he's sound, he's got a great boot, and he looks a bit better on the attack. Time on says, for me, Papier better get a recall. I've always been a big Ambrose Papier fan. I was calling the Lions to sign him when he was busy being benched years ago, when he couldn't. We was being benched by Ivan van Zyl. Because to be fair, Ivan van Zyl wasn't playing like he was playing last year. But that's when I really thought that Ambrose Papier should have gone to a different union, because I think that Ambrose Papier is a very talented scrum half who's got everything in his locker to be an international scrum half. And I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from him. Johan says, Stormers play nice rugby, but they are not fit. Louis says, Ruanel or Rex Pretorius at 12. Well, out of those two, I'd go Rick's Pretorius. But I'd like to see Damien Willems to stay there. And I know that Kalan's leaving. But I'd far rather the Stormers go and find a fullback and leave Willems at 12. Long term, anyway. But last time we said in an interview that he would love to play for the Boks. Do you think it means that he can be selected for the Boks? He grew up in ZA after all. Yeah, I assume the fact that he's talking about that he would love to play. And basically almost, I think, when you look at the interview, it's basically talking about the fact he'd like to play this year. One assumes he's got his citizenship sorted. The Stukas, for example, don't, and that's tragic because I don't see how you don't select Vince Stuka in the next Boks squad. Ahead of who, I don't know. But he's just, he's what, 2 man of the match performances back to back. He's the form 7 in the country right now. And again, somebody's got everything in his locker. Hello, F and TSG, welcome back. Jan Rabbit said the Stormers must work on their fitness because against several teams like Benson, Munster, Bulls, Connacht, and Ulster, they were leading very far and gave the game away at the very end against most. Hi, Shark supporter here, welcome. Hope you're having a lekker day. It was a long day. Early start, lots of meetings, lots of admin, but we're moving. I guess you heard about the tragic passing of G-Man. Yeah, so it's a very, very sad news over the weekend to see that Gareth Mason has passed on. Unfortunately, never had the pleasure of meeting him in person. But yeah, I was on 2 streams last year with him. Really enjoyed them. Someone who's really pioneered the South African YouTube space. A little bit similar to what we do, but quite different. And I think that, yeah, I think for a while, I think that between a couple of us on YouTube, I think we were starting to carve out quite a nice rugby YouTube space for South Africa and sort of taking a big step into the next dimension. So it's a massive loss to lose somebody who was very much ahead of the curve in terms of what he was doing. So yeah, thoughts go out to his family and stuff. Yeah, it was very, very. I mean, we lost a lot of rugby personalities and social media personalities in the last couple of months. So it is quite sad. But I think the best thing we could do is continue to do the good work, And I was quite honoured in his final video. He mentioned the fact that he didn't really have the passion for what he was doing in the moment. He mentioned the couple other channels which he said did have the passion, and we were mentioned, which was quite touching and quite hectic to listen to that after hearing what he had done or what had happened over the weekend. But yeah, I think it's a reminder of how tough it is, and especially in this industry where you do get quite a lot of abuse and stuff like that. And I mean, we all go through it, and you have to go through it to a certain amount. But mental health at the moment is such a big thing in the world. So yeah, I think we need to be very cognizant of what we say everywhere, because you can see he wasn't going through a good time. So yeah, unfortunately, the rugby space is very. It's poor off without him, as much as in many ways a competition, doing streams at the same time and stuff like that. It was all about growing South African rugby YouTube. It was all about showing that we can do it as well and creating our own personalities. And I think that was what was so special, is that whilst lots of us do similar things, I don't think any of us are the same. I think we're all quite different in what we do. And he was very more sort of motivational, very inspirational, very much, you never get it down. Very casual, and that's what made his channel so special. So yeah, he will be missed, and I'm just sad I never got to do more with him, I suppose. But hopefully we can honor him by continuing to grow our community, by continuing to put South African YouTube on the map. And you guys will know, around all the various channels, that it's important that we continue to do this sort of work, especially because of people like him. But yeah, so yeah, it was pretty sad to hear. Some other comments at the moment. Where were we? So FBC is talking at the moment. What happened to Ross Grenier? He retired. This year, I think he retired. I think he just wasn't getting games and decided to hang his boots up. Similani deserves to a Springbok, the Lions flanker. I think Similani being the outside centre, Chatuka being the flanker. How old's Kerwin? Not that old, but also old enough to start sitting there saying you need to start. Yeah, he's 24, so he's 25 this year. So that's what I'm saying. He's still got age on his side, but it's sort of time for him to take the next step, isn't it? Where we at? Bosch 24. There we go. The Bulls offload the ball a lot. I'm really enjoying the Bulls. Bulls rugby at the moment, which is an incredible thing to say. I mean, we are enjoying Bulls rugby. How weird is that to say that you're enjoying Bulls rugby? This is a side that we grew up dismissively saying, "Oh, it's Bulls rugby," whenever it was just carry after carry and physical stuff and not much, flair. But they are playing nice rugby, and it's effective, isn't it? I think that they are starting to hit their straps a bit more. How Madosh Tambwe, we talked about him a bit earlier. He's a good player, Madosh Tambwe. Probably is the form wing in the country at the moment. However, it's always an interesting thing, the idea of picking form versus try and test it, because people are saying that Madosh Tambwe will be playing against Michael Zuma Pimpy, ahead of Michael Zuma Pimpy. And yes, right now you'd say that Madosh Tambwe is probably playing better rugby. Michael Zuma Pimpy was our best player in the autumn series. He was scoring tries for fun again. So do you drop him? So it's always going to be quite interesting. I think Edwin van der Merwe, for example, suddenly looking really good at the Lions. I think that there are a lot of wings in and around the country who are putting their hands up. Sievelis and Atlas starting to make a bit more, look a little more comfortable in the 15th game. I'm enjoying seeing that. Leon Lanzas, for example, is looking like a nice player again. Looks to be sort of resurgent very much. Taman Taylor says, Tomas Gutsia, Buerta and Loa played brilliant rugby, and I thought Brink played well last week as well. He was covering our wing. Where we at? I'm lost. Where have you guys been? I'll talk a bit about the end, about the story and people asking where's Forever Rugby and stuff like that. I'm going to explain it all towards the end. I just want to try and get through a couple of stuff, and then we'll kind of tell you guys what to expect and what the story is. She's watching the women's protest tomorrow early. I'm going to flick on and off. I'll try and watch the beginning. I've got so much to do tomorrow. I don't think I can commit to staying from 3 until like midnight and tomorrow night. But very much looking forward to seeing if they can make a bit of history. Have you ever seen Squidge doing a live stream? Not on his own channel. I know he did do one with Gareth Mason a couple of years ago. I know he's now doing work for sort of bigger media companies and stuff like that. We've tried. I think I tried to get a hold of him. Didn't get much of a response, but it's fine. We'll work towards it. I think that I'd really like to do a preview show when ahead of the Wales series, for example. Be really cool. Where can I get that Fair Sports merch? I think our website's still up actually for the merch. Again, that's something that we've been looking at, and we need to try and get going again properly and stuff like that. Like I know people, for example, wanted the mugs and stuff like that we were doing and stuff. So we will get that going again and stuff like that. Yeah, we've had a very long, lots of discussions behind the scene in terms of what our plan is and what we're going to do with the channels, brand, and stuff like that. So I'll chat about it a bit. Kermit is inconsistent, says, and I feel like for the Wales test, the three most coaches will pick the second team. I think we'll go pretty strong first up and then maybe tweak for the second and third tests. The Spear Twins must come back to the Sharks. Sharks have enough money to buy them. Kurt Lawrence at 15 for the Box. Thoughts on that? I think he's playing good rugby, but I think everybody here that watches me regularly knows that I am all in on Warwick Lund for the Box. Anybody else I wouldn't be happy with. Didn't tell me to play for the Lions. So you started with this. It's good that you're back, bro. What time to be off? With the Lions tearing it up. I know. It was killing me. Like, and if we lose this weekend, maybe I have to go back on sabbatical, because literally as soon as I stopped doing this, the Lions started winning. So maybe there was a certain amount of reason for that. Sharks are becoming like Man City, bagging all the stars. Kalanta's going to be the starting fullback for the Box this year. Hopefully, do you reckon that Ireland have got a proper chance of winning the 3-test series against the All Blacks in New Zealand this year? I don't think so. I think they might be able to win one. I'll be very surprised. You don't very easily go to New Zealand and beat them in their backyard twice. So in terms of some player movements, because there's quite a lot of news going around. First of all, Damien Dale-Lindy is officially leaving Munster. I mean, how's that? He comes here, he gets beaten by the Lions, and now he has to leave Munster. I mean, this is the Lions retiring players these days. He was not staying in Europe either, which means he's going to Japan or he's coming to South Africa. Now, all signs are pointing towards Japan. There's basically very little to no chance that he would come to South Africa, unfortunately, because there's a lot of teams that could use them. The team that could use them the most are the Lions. They're not going to have an inside centre next season, but the Lions look like a union that makes smart decisions. No, they don't. Elsewhere, Chris Cloutey, for example, is also moving. He is, however, staying within Europe. He is going to Bath, the club as opposed to the bathroom activity. And, so he's going to go and join Johan van der Kraan there. What other sort of news? I mean, we haven't been here for a while. Something I want to speak about in a little bit. In the stadiums and how we fill our stadiums up stuff. Because I had a bit of a debate on Twitter and a couple of people chimed in, but I'd like to get you guys' opinion on it. So let's talk about it. The Bulls. Well, yesterday Jake White threw the Bulls in under the bus a bit and basically said that we're going to have tickets for 25 rand. And as a result, the Bulls have now made 70% of this weekend's tickets allocation. And I mean, Loftus is what, a 50,000 or 40,000 seater stadium, so they can have over 20,000 people with 50% capacity. They've got 50,000 capacity at Loftus, so they can have 25,000 people in Loftus. Now, the problem is we've been asking for 50% of our stadiums to be reopened, but now we're still not seeing full stadiums. So the Bulls this weekend, to their credit, are trying something. They are putting tickets down to 25 rand. They've got a whole pre-party going on. They're going to have beer there. They're trying to put together quite a big, quite a big event on Saturday. They really want to try and bring all the fans in. Now, I really do applaud the 25 rand because I've always said that tickets are unreasonably expensive for the amount of people that go. You know, I mean, like the Lions, you used to go and sit there and you'd pay, 125 rand for a ticket and on a Friday night in Ellis Park, and you sit there going, is it worth it? Because the problem is we were a family of 6, for example, and so if our parents take us, it was almost 1,000 rand to watch a Lions game, and we haven't bought a cool drink. We haven't paid parking, for example. In Ellis Park, you need to be paying parking. You need to be paying $50 to go and park by the stadium or something like that. So, for example, for families, 125, 150 rand gets quite expensive quite quickly. 600-700 rand is a lot of money. Then you're paying for it in petrol and stuff like that. However, 25 rand is nothing. It is absolutely nothing. You cannot use the excuse of tickets too expensive to go to Loftus weekend. That can't be your excuse. If you're not going to Loftus weekend, it's because you don't want to go, not because you can't afford it. Look, maybe some people can't afford 25 rand, but it's the concept. But is it just the ticket price? And I don't think it is just the ticket price. I think that there's so much more fundamentally wrong with fandom. And I use the word fandom in terms of fans, relationship, fans, the way people support, the connection the clubs have, the way that we consume the product. I think that for me is the main reason why we are not filling our stadiums. I don't think it's just down to ticket prices. I don't think it's just down to Ellis Park not being a great place to go at 7 o'clock on a Friday night. I don't think it's just because food is extortionately expensive, which it is. You go in there and you're paying 40 rand for a can of beer, and you're sitting there going, well, I spent $100, I'm 2 beers down, what 2 beers can I do? I think there's so much more wrong. I think you need to make it more affordable. So I think that the 25 rand tickets helps. But again, you got to make the stadium food more affordable, and you got to make sure it's nice as well. There's nothing worse than going there. I remember during the World Cup, 2010 World Cup, the worst food you could have ever imagined was the stadium food. It was horrendous. It was overpriced. It was horrible. It didn't taste nice. So, but I think it's so much more fundamental than that. We're talking about a population of 55 million people, World Cup champions. We can fill a Bok game. All Bok games are full. We cannot quarter a fifth of the stadiums for our local sides. Sharks have got 13 World Cup winners. They're still not fitting Kings Park. And I think that also, what I will say is I think our stadiums are far too big. I've always said it. There's no point having Ellis Park. I mean, it's a 69,000 seater stadium. If that was a 20,000 seater stadium in a nice area with a good atmosphere, because I think the smaller you get, the more full a stadium it is. It doesn't matter how big it is. The more full it is, the better the atmosphere. A 5,000 seater stadium that's full and close together is far more enjoyable from an atmosphere point of view than a 50,000 seater stadium with 10,000 people. And the guys over there and the guys over there. an atmosphere comes in it needs to almost be claustrophobic. You need to feel like you're part of it, like you all sort of like breathe as one, we react as one. You can feel the atmosphere. Whereas when you're sitting by yourself and there's nobody else there, it's like watching a school game. And I don't think it's necessarily quality rugby. I think we've seen some good rugby in the URC, but I think that South African teams have got to do a lot more to get fans to invest in them. There needs to be a personal investment. I was a season ticket holder for the Lions, so I was somebody that did good at Edis all the time. Friday night, Saturdays was every second week we were there because we were season ticket holders for 3 years before I went to varsity. But how many people are actually emotionally invested? How many people are spending the entire week going, I can't wait to watch the Lions this weekend? How many people are Lions fans as opposed to a rugby fan that supports the Lions? Now, there is a bit of a difference because a Lions fan, for example, is someone who watches rugby because he wants to watch the Lions. They will watch other rugby if it's on, but their main sort of the highlight of their weekend is seeing that team. And, then we had the counter argument of people would rather stay at home and watch all 3 matches. Now that's an issue because a Lions, if you're a fan of the side, you are willing to give up not watching the Sharks, not watching the Stormers because you watch them and you enjoy watching them, but you don't care as much. You want to be able to go and watch your side, and that's what we need to do better. And that comes down to social media. It comes down to accessibility to players. It comes down to a more sort of personal relationship. You go onto the Lions, the Bulls, the Sharks website. There's no stats. There's no extra information. We don't know these players. There's no stories. There's no like, I need to go watch that player. I'm invested in him and I want to go see him in person. And I don't buy the argument that people don't watch live sport because you look at some of the school festivals. I mean, I used to go watch every year. We used to have Kingswood versus St Andrews. It was called K-Day. And there must have been about thousands of people would watch that game. And it's a schoolboy game. And it's not even the 2 like best rugby schools in the country. St Andrews got a very good rugby side. Kingswood got a decent rugby side. But you're not watching the 2 best schools in the country. And yet that specific match once a year pulls in a bigger crowd than Lions versus Bulls, which is a YXK derby sometimes. So I think that that's where they need to do better. We need to be personally invested, create more fandom, create more sort of, I have to go watch the Lions. I want to go see my hero in person. I want to go see my team in person. And that's where I think that we are lacking quite a lot. Let's go through some of the comments. So John Deluxe says, the Bulls saying tickets to 25 Rand is genius. Ultimate says, I'm not sure if 25 Rand gimmick is sustainable for stadiums. If we can't sell tickets at half of Varsity Cup ticket, then we have problems. I mean, and even Varsity Cup though has shown that that you can bring in fans if you create a reason to go. Varsity Cup this year, it's a bit difficult to judge because obviously it was only 2,000 people, now it's 50%. Competition sort of almost done and stuff like that. But generally, I've always been quite impressed with Varsity Cup and even Varsity Shield attendances. 25 Rand is affordable, especially given the mad inflation. I say the ideal ticket price for club is 50 Rand for all tickets. Well, you look at the Lions. The Lions are a 68,000 seater stadium. Now you can sell 10,000 tickets at 200 Rand. You can sell 30,000 tickets at 50 Rand. Which one would you rather do? 40,000 tickets at 50 Rand. Go and pack people in there. And obviously they're spending more money on food. They're more likely to buy jerseys. They're more likely to hopefully come back if it's a better atmosphere. So I've always, said that we need to go cheap, but I think it's a lot more than that. So I'm just going to spot out a couple of ones. You can't drink the stadiums. We can now. That's very much open this weekend. Do you reckon the Springboks will whitewash Wales this year in June? I hope so. Vic says, Steve is back. Bummer that I'm late. Yeah, back and hopefully here to stay. If we can continue getting back to where we were last year, then very much get back to the usual schedule. So Albert Sharpshooter is saying, agree, save the big stadiums for big derbies like Stormers versus Bulls or top of the table clashes. Teams represent entire provinces, so make us all fans in those provinces. Agreed, and take them to the people. Pack the smaller stadiums. Go and like when they play at the Darnley Craven. That's cool. Do it. There's other stadiums in this country. Go and play there, and because also you play one game there, people are like, oh, this is quite cool, and then you say, right, now come to our stadium. Stormers did the smart thing and took a game to the Darnley Craven Stadium. They almost sold out that game. Parking is 50 Rand at Kings Park, which is too much in my opinion. Do you back the Bulls to beat Ulster this weekend? I think they will do it. I think it starts with the fact that most people can't watch rugby, so your only market is the DSTV premium audience, which is not that huge. It's a very good point as well. How can we, again, talking about the idea of fandom, how are we creating that? Why is the local person who doesn't have a DSTV Now or DSTV premium account, he's not watching rugby on a weekly basis? Why does he care? And he doesn't like rugby enough yet to have to go and watch a game because he can't watch it on TV. He's just blissfully not consuming rugby, which is also a big issue. That's, in fact, was basically sort of the central aspect around my master's thesis, was more towards cricket, but that sort of idea. Tim van den Berg says, hey Stevie, it's been a long while. I'm excited to watch the Lions weekend. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I'm very keen to do a Lions watch. We're probably going to flip and lose this weekend just because we're back. But hey, we move. It's also marketing. If your marketing is poor, you're not going to get the bums and states of the stadiums. I think a lot of our franchises are also missing out on great marketing tactic. That is, if we tell potential buyers that every 5,000 tickets keeps the Springbok home, that'll get some people to buy. Interesting concept. Lions have a better chance to beat Edinburgh than the Sharks had based on the different ways the Sharks Lions players. I think we'll also, conditions will suit us a bit better. Bulls do a lot with their players in the app. 2 truths on the line, no holds barred. Yeah, so the Bulls are trying a lot harder than other unions are. And let's see if it works this weekend, for example. What exactly is Neil Powell's role when he goes to the Sharks? Well, he's director of rugby. Now, it depends on what sort of director of rugby you have, because Rassie Erasmus is the director of rugby, and you can see how hands-on he is and how involved he is within the Springbok setup. So whether Neil Powell will have that much power, whether he's more sort of where they go in terms of Currie Cup and URC and juniors and sort of the whole direction, I'm interested to know. I'm glad they have brought him in and given him a bigger role, because I really rate Neil Powell, but I'm not quite sure exactly how his role is going to work. Gray versus Paul Ruiz had more supporters than the Currie Cup final 2019. Exactly. Has Ivan van Rooyen been with the Lions during the Jan Ackerman era? Yeah, he was a strength and conditioning coach and sort of came through there. You're completely right. There's no narrative for fans to follow, no personal investment for onlookers. I enjoy NFL. I should have no personal investment, but the hype and narrative pulls you in. NBA, for example. How many people are watching NBA because they want to watch LeBron? And they want to watch Giannis, and they want to watch, all the various players and stuff like that. How much is that a pull? Look at what happens when Ronaldo goes to United and stuff like that. We've got to create more personal investment, like Siak Lisi going to the Sharks. That in itself should be selling thousands of tickets, but it wasn't. If the Lions go and sign, I think that's the frustration. The Lions could tomorrow go and sign Anton Dupont. Go and sign the world's best player in the year. Would that really translate into more ticket sales? I don't think so. And I think that's a problem, because I think that's the attitude of sort of rugby fans at the moment. We don't have that, oh my goodness, we have to go and watch. And there was, to a certain degree, I remember when we signed Carter Spencer, and I was so excited to go and watch Carter Spencer. Like, there's always talk, like New Zealand flower half, legendary flower half. But you need kind of more of that, and then you need to really dig deep. You need to take it for a ride. Really get these people liking these sort of players and stuff. Vix is like, I understand fans choosing not to go to Ayers Park. That's a rough neighborhood, but the other stadiums should be bringing in big crowds. Loftus is literally close to the university. No excuse. And look, I mean, I've been going to Ayers Park for years. It's not the most lacquer place, but once you go there once and you understand the area, it's not that bad to go to. It really isn't that bad. Once you understand where to park, you go in, you park at the Lake Stadium. We used to park at like a little church. I was right over there, and the guy used to do $25, I think it was, and he had basically I'm pretty sure it was church, had a parking lot with a with its own sort of with a security gate, and you would just open it and stuff. So once you sort of knew exactly, you were close to the stadium. I had no issue walking there, walking back. It wasn't that hectic. I can understand with young kids and stuff like that, it's not ideal, but but I mean, for like a Loftus, for example, you're right next to Tux. Cape Town Stadium is a beautiful area. It should be a treat to be able to go there. For fans, all the clubs should play at the university to attract fans. I'm going to buy Xbox soon. What should I buy if I have to choose between Rugby Challenge 4 and Rugby 22? I haven't gone back to Rugby 22. I've never had a particularly good time on it. I found it very, very complicated. I found the racking system very complicated. I think the Bulls and Stormers and Sharks are going to win this weekend, so 3 out of 4, not bad. Do you think Bosch should seek greener pastures abroad? Thought he was woeful last week. Witter has to be favourite, I reckon. Yeah, I do think that Bosch needs to leave. Whether he needs to go overseas, I don't know. But I think he needs to leave. He needs a fresh start. He needs to go somewhere where there's not... Because the problem is he could put together 4 fantastic games in a row. If he has 2 bad games, everyone's going to go, here it is. You need a new start. And we see that with some players. Where they go overseas and suddenly that new sort of start just sort of reinvigorates their career. So I think that's what he needs. I said last year he needs to go. When did the Bulls start playing an offloading game? Because I haven't seen them playing that this way last year. They have been playing a lot more positive in the last couple of years. Not quite what we've seen right now. But, yeah. You're going to Loftus 25 Rand? No, I'm not going to go to Loftus because we're going to be doing watch-alongs this weekend. So that's also my frustration. I've been really keen to get back into the stadiums. But, for example, on Saturday, the Lions are playing at 4 o'clock, which means that I wouldn't be able to do the Bulls game at 2. And I wouldn't be able to do the Stormers game at 6. Even if I was to go to the Bulls game at 2, I wouldn't be home by 6. I'd be drunk somewhere. So, yeah, we're going to be doing the watch-alongs this weekend, so I won't be going to any stadiums, unfortunately, but hopefully quite soon. There. We're watching F1 because the Netflix series and that sport is boring. Indirect marketing done there. Yeah, well, that's what you kind of need. You need... But just that, look at how big Formula 1 is. We are going to start covering Formula 1, fun fact. Seething at you lot, Joburg lot beating my Munster. We had done so well. Hey, I told you, you don't just come to Ellis Park and beat the Lions, hey? Greatest team in the world. Morning Vandenberg, Jordan Hendrickson, the Tatuka brothers. We're moving over there. We'll probably move for about 3 games and then we'll all go tits up. But hey. What do you think Denda will go as he's leaving Munster? Yeah, so you said earlier, pretty much guaranteed to go to Japan for me. I don't see him coming back here. I'd like him to come back here, but I just don't see it. Leandre Bayer says we need more fan engagement from clubs. We need ticket prices to be high. It will make a significant difference, and I'd argue teams will be more marketable. People are just not invested anymore. Yeah, I think that rugby is a bit dead at the moment. It's a bit flat, isn't it? And I think it's a combination of things. I think that we've had lots of turmoil in terms of lots of SA derbies, a lot of weird sort of competition stuff like that. We haven't had too much consistency. We're still working out the rugby calendar. But I think that once we're settled, then you need to start growing it. And I think if we start getting European Champions Cup and European Challenge Cup, if you can't sell that, what can you sell? If you can't sell Anton Dupont, Romain Intermac, some of the best players in the world coming and playing at Loftus down the road, what can you sell? Then there's just no hope. And I don't, again, people talk about how rugby is a religion in South Africa. We're 55 million people. We're 10 million people in in Joburg and stuff like that. And we can't fill a 60,000 seater stadium. We can't even put 20,000 people in that stadium. There's no excuse in terms of it's not about numbers, and it's about saying that the stadium. That it's just about the fact that for whatever reason we're getting rugby wrong at the moment as a country, and we need to try and fix that. Marcel Coetzee recall. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who as always when it comes to South African sides, there are a lot of loose forwards who are playing very well at the moment. You can watch along from the stadium. Look, there's one thing I've learned about this. Ellis Park, for example, there be no signal in there. Interesting concept. I think if we get a team going again, like we were hoping to get eventually, then maybe we can work towards that. Where somebody else could do a watch along, we could do live crossover and stuff like that. Unfortunately, just not feasible right now. A says that the team climb up the URC log. I hope the OB22 developers realize how ridiculous their player and team ratings are. Yeah, we had on my personal channel. I'd looked at all of them. It was quite interesting to look at those ratings and stuff like that. And as you say, now that we are playing well, it's difficult to justify them. How many players the Lions losing? Well, the only confirmed departure is Burger Woodendal. Rumored, Chituka's in demand, Milani's in demand. Hendrickson actually hasn't been mentioned, thankfully, but Carly Sardi's in demand. Who else is in demand? Warren Vandenberg wouldn't be surprised if he's in demand. Those guys are the main guys. We need to sign Ruan Fenter down to a long-term contract because he looks proper. Shura Farrell says, so Johan says, how good would the Lions do in the URC? They get Johanna coming back as the head coach, Waste Brain back as the assistant coach. maybe beat Leinster. Oh, we'd need a lot more than just them to beat Leinster. We need to rebuild a side. We need to get back to having some world-class players. It would help a lot, though. I hear Leinster are getting a former All Black centre. Wish we were getting a former All Black centre. Vic says, we are so used to consuming rugby on our TVs, that'll be hard to change. I'm hoping this North versus South rivalry can spark some pride for us to have our fans out there like the Europeans. Yeah, I think it's just also a different mentality, because it's not just rugby that has an issue. Nobody goes and watches local cricket. Some people don't even go watch international cricket. And I think Supersport having such a great bouquet has maybe played a part in that there's so much rugby you can watch. You can just sit on a couch and just consume sport like no other. You're flicking between the cricket and the rugby. But, yeah, I don't know. I love watching live sport. I'm literally, on my Sundays, I haven't been able to play cricket for the last 2 months, but yet every Sunday I'm there watching cricket. I love watching live sport. I love watching schoolboy sport. I just don't think you can beat it. And I think that, like test match cricket in a stadium with your mates and stuff like that, there's nothing better. I'm picking that 100% over flicking some channels on the couch, but there is that sort of mentality. Jean-Luc says, as long as Sorry doesn't turn rugby into a mess that CSA is currently dealing with, we'll be fine. What's your prediction this weekend? Right, so this weekend we've got Sharks versus the Dragons. Now, you should hopefully see a reaction from the Sharks. Glasgow Warriors taking on Zebra. Glasgow should be taking that. Connacht versus Benetton, you're probably back in Connacht. Bulls versus Ulster, I think, will be a very interesting game. I think Bulls have got it in them to beat them. Lions versus Edinburgh should be very interesting, because I think that Edinburgh is obviously the favourite side, but Lions, for example, have never been this confident, so you never know what will happen. Stormers versus Ospreys, on the back of last weekend, you expect the Stormers to be quite comfortable. Munster versus Leinster should be a real treat this weekend. I'm not sure we'll do a watch along. I might just drink beer and watch that with some mates. You got Scarlets taking on Cardiff as well. So it's a couple of interesting games. So I'm going to go with the Sharks win, I reckon a clean sweep stack. I'm going to be bold and say it. Hans says, they must stop taking our players away from our local teams. If this happens, then none of our teams will either win the URC. Graham says, I was in Lakeside 2 weeks ago and I could not find one place that was showing the rugby, not Spur, not the Mall, Food Court, not 4 other places where it tells you enough about the interest in rugby. Yeah, good point. Often I would go down to the pub, even at varsity, and to go watch the rugby, and we say, let's go watch the rugby, and they put the footy on. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Plus, if you look at most European stadiums, they have two, one for smaller games, one for bigger ones. Yeah, I'd love to get towards that. Man, our men's cricket is so bad. What happened in women's semi-final at 3 o'clock? Well, we'll see how men's cricket goes tomorrow. There were more shopkeepers at the cricket last week than SA fans. The 2017 Lions team, including players and coaching staff, played in the URC, and they would surely win the URC. I'll give it a good go. There were more Bangladeshi supporters the other day. Yeah, that's true. Bulls was also be tight, and Swart says, I remember many years ago, Bulls came to many schools in our area to promote the game. The franchise should get more young people. Rate Ruan Fenter higher than the other Lions locks. Yeah, Ruan Fenter looks a proper player. But yeah, so we're coming to the end of the show, so I thought that will now be a good chance to sort of explain what's going on, because people are asking where's Forever Rugby, what's happening with watch long, stuff like that. So it was a very tough year for us. It's been a very tough year for me. It's just been a very long year. Lots of very long work hours, lots going on. And obviously, because there's no international stuff like that, the channel views have been down quite a lot. So it's been difficult to sort of justify, to find the time, for example, to continue sort of spewing content at the rate we were doing last year, when we weren't seeing the rewards, stuff like that. And it's difficult because it does take a lot of time and a lot of sacrifices in terms of having to try and work other schedules into this. So you're sitting there saying, keeping certain days open to try and do watch alongs, then you're doing the watch alongs, and you're not quite getting the views and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a bit of a year, where I have to focus on my career a bit and stuff like that. And we basically had to have a bit of a review on the Forever Sports company and brand in terms of the sustainability of the channel, because in the current model it's been in the last couple of months, it's just not sustainable at the moment. And that's nobody's fault. You guys are the ones who are keeping us going and stuff like that, and the reason that we're going to give this a proper shot. But in trying to find different ways to try and get the entire brand to be sustainable, that's where Forever Rugby, if you guys would notice, was being rebranded as Forever Sports Live, which is a new project we're going to start, which is sort of more live match trackers, not quite watch-alongs, for example. It's something a bit different. It's something that we can do a lot more of. We can cover a lot more games and a lot more different sports in different ways. So, that is for example one project that we have looked into. So Forever Rugby will return. I'm not sure when. We need to sort of decide what's happening with a couple of our other channels, stuff like that. But yeah, so that's why Forever Rugby became Forever Sports Live, because we needed a different channel to try and do different stuff, and we wanted something that already had a bit of an audience. In terms of the future of Forever Sports, so I'm not going anywhere. Let's put that right to bed. I'm not going anywhere for as long as I've got the time, for as long as I've got the platform. We'll keep doing this. We're going to keep growing it, because last year we grew exponentially, and I think that we do have something very special that we can really take the next step on. But we have to diversify a little bit, and that is going to mean more sports. So we are going to try and do more cricket. We are going to do more football. We are bringing in Formula One. So the Australia Grand Prix was hopefully going to be one where we're going to try and do properly, but it is very early in the morning, so we're not sure. We'll have to wait and see if we've got the people available to do it properly. And we're also going to be launching quite an exciting golf project as well. So yeah, so the future of Forever Sports is very much the rugby stuff we already do, but bringing in a lot of other sports, and trying to bring in new audiences and try and grow the channel as Forever Sports as opposed to just Forever Rugby, and to try and get new guys into the channel and stuff like that, to try and sort of spark a bit more growth. So that's why we did take a couple of weeks off. We had to look at a lot of different things. We had to find out where our strengths were, where our weaknesses are, what we can improve on, what we have to focus on, and stuff like that. So we've got a lot of ideas, and some of it will be trial and error. For example, we're going to be trying a new thing with the watch along this weekend, which I'm quite excited about. I think it's going to add a lot to the watch along, especially for the people that can't actually watch the games and they kind of use the channel as an alternative. I think it's going to be a really cool addition to the watch along. So I'm very excited to trial that this weekend, and then expect more sports, expect more people. We're trying to get more people involved. We want to try and get more. As the restrictions are now a little bit less hectic, we want to try and get more people in the same room, So for, like Formula One, for example, we want to try and get people in the room and do watch-alongs together and get panels going and stuff like that. Move towards that sort of stuff. Much more to sort of what I really want to be doing. As much fun as it is sitting by myself with you guys doing watch-alongs, I miss people. I think we all miss people, and I think that it would be a lot better for the channel and for you guys to have more discussion, more, people, more human elements, more, sort of organic conversation, stuff like that. So expect a couple of changes. The standard stuff won't be going away. The rugby will still be staying the same and stuff, but we are going to be trying some new things, and they might work, they might not, and we'll have to sort of live and die by what happens. So yeah, a big thank you first of all to everyone who has tuned in tonight. It's been a really good stream to get back into it. It's nice to see that everybody's still around. Please continue to be patient with us over the next couple of weeks as we do try and roll out a new structure or a new sort of program. And a massive thanks to all the guys that support the channel, you guys that subscribe, the members, for example. I mean, that's pretty much the only revenue this channel has made in the last month, because we haven't been putting out content. So those guys who are members, that's just a little bit of money in the bank, which really does help us a lot with paying for various things and stuff like that. So looking forward to this weekend. We will be back. All the preview and stuff like that will be coming up from tomorrow. We're going to be previewing all the South African matches. We're going to be doing a daily review of the South African test. We're going to be doing a preview of the football this weekend. We'll do a review of the football this weekend. We're going to start doing football watch-alongs as well. There's going to be a lot of stuff on the channel. This is hopefully going to be busier than ever, and hopefully we're going to grow very quickly and get ourselves really back to the momentum we saw last year. So Yeah, create a Patreon. I've thought about creating a Patreon. I need to look more into that in terms of if I've got time to be able to do it properly. Because I think the one rule I've always had, I think you guys will back me up on here. I hate doing things half-heartedly, and we've had a couple of things where we've started and haven't been able to keep it up, and we've then sort of shut it down. And that's why we have to make sure that this all looks good and that it's a production and stuff like that. Because I don't like to do something unless it's done well. So yeah, well, I thought about a Patreon. I need to decide what I could do, for example, and how to do it properly and stuff like that. But we'll sort of see. You want to try and get players on the channel. I've got a couple of connections I'm working on to try and get a podcast going again. So yeah, it's going to be a whole lot of new stuff as well. Yeah, so Jan says apparently the Box will again play twice in Australia against the bloody Wallabies this year, but then we get to play the Ball Blacks in SA twice. Well, we'll see. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for jumping back on. We will see you guys probably not tomorrow night because I've got to go to a Gauteng cricket board meeting, which I'm sure is going to drag on for quite a long time. So I doubt I'll be at home in time to a stream. But we will be live, if not on Friday for the Sharks game, we will be live for the games on Saturday. Bulls, Lions, Stormers. Let's have a big weekend. Tell all your friends. Bring them to the comments if you're not going to the game. And let's try and get some really big watch-alongs going together. And really start getting stuck into the rugby as we build it towards the Wales, because we're in April by this weekend. So, yeah, please do keep well, and I'll see you guys